Alright, this video is going to overview some more advanced formatting options available in WordPress via what are called shortcodes, which are short blips of text similar to an HTML tag. They're fairly easy to use, but it does take a little bit to wrap your mind around the usage, but hopefully this video will help clarify any confusion. So the first thing I'm going to do is overview column shortcodes. So column shortcodes allow you to break up your content into a few columns, either from 2 columns up to 4 columns, or any combination of thirds, so like a 2/3 and 1/3, either on the left or the right. So I think rather than try and keep explaining it, I'm just going to get right into it. So I'm going to put in a return right here that'll allow me to put in my shortcode, and this is the shortcode button up here in the upload insert bar. So we're going to insert a shortcode by clicking that button. And you can see all of our column shortcodes are listed here. So we've got 1/4 columns, 1/3 columns, 2/3 columns, and 2/4 columns, which is a half column. So I'm going to start out with the 2/4 column just for for simplicity's sake, and we'll call this column 2 out of 4. Insert that shortcode, and I'll put a return in and insert another column, which is the 2/4 last, meaning it's the last column in this column set. We'll call this column 4 out of 4. And before I do anything else, I'm just going to preview that to see how it looks online. So you can see here we've got our first column and our second column. So pretty straightforward. Obviously if we were to put more content in here, these columns would stretch down further, but right now we just have that one line of text, so that's why they look so short. So I'm going to close that window to go back here. Now for me, visually, it's easier for me to see the columns if they're broken out like this by putting some returns in to them. And that's primarily for once you get a lot more content in place. That way all your content is here. So for instance, if I had another paragraph of content that I put below this heading, it's easier for me to see the paragraph breaks and where my column starts and stops. Let's put in a little more content down here as well. So let me just explain this again. So this is the start of the 2/4 column, and this is the end of that first column. So this text right here is our entire first column. Then we start the next column, and we've got our 2/4 last and the end of our 2/4 last column. So this here is our second column. Now the last refers to the last column in a column set. So in this instance there's only 2 columns, but in an instance, say where you're doing thirds, you would see 1/3 here, the end of 1/3, and then there'd be another duplicate one just like that, making up 2/3, and then we'd have our 1/3 last column, which would go at the very end of that column set. So basically, when you're doing columns, you want to make sure that everything kind of adds up to a whole number 1, basically. So you wouldn't want to mix like 2/3 and 1/4, because that would make for a kind of strange layout. You could probably do it; it just wouldn't look great. So that's why I typically recommend sticking with all thirds or all fourths rather than mixing and matching them. So let's see. Let me do some other basic formatting here. I'll put this in a heading 2 style and put this column in a heading 2 style as well. And let's just preview that and see how that looks. There we go. So we've got one column here, second column here, and then our main text down below. So it's kind of cool. It allows you to break up the content a little bit. And you can insert pictures into these columns just like you would with any other content. So if I wanted to go in here and let's just grab a photo real quick just to show you how that would look. I'll just put this guy in here, thumbnail size, left alignment looks good, insert in the post. So there we go. So now we've got the column, our content, including the photo, and then the end of our first column here. So if I preview that, you can see there we've got our first column with the content wrapping around that photo, our second column here, and then this content starting down here. So you can see how it gets a little weird if your columns are vastly different sizes. So in this instance, we've got our main content kind of wrapping down below our 4th column. So I always recommend when you're doing these columns to kind of try and even out the content as much as possible, just to try and make it look formatted as nicely as possible. Let's see. So that's it for 2 columns. Let's try something a little more advanced. I'm going to insert a, let's see, we'll do a 1/3 column and then a 2/3 column. So I'm going to do the 1/3 first. Actually, let's do, rather than 1/3 and 2/3, let's do all 1/3s across. So I'll do my first 1/3, and rather than inserting content here, I'm just going to insert the shortcode. So I've got my shortcode right here, and I can put some content in. Basically, I'll just grab this first sentence here, paste that in there. So I'm going to actually want to duplicate this one more time, this whole thing here, because that'll be the second column. And then what I want to do is insert the last column in that column set. So I'll go back into my columns shortcode here. And we'll do the 1/3 last. Insert that shortcode. And then I'll just grab this sentence again here, copy that, paste it into here. So basically we've got our first 1/3 column with these shortcodes, our second 1/3 column here, and then our third and final or last column here. So let's preview that and see how that looks. Alright, so there you go. 1, 2, 3. So that's pretty basic. And let's see, just to show you too, I could take out these the 1/3 last column and this 1/3 column here and put in a 2/3 column. So I'll go back into my shortcodes. And we're going to do a 2-column or 2/3 last, since we already have this 1/3 column right here. So I'll insert that shortcode, put in this content here, and since this is a wider column, I'm going to paste that sentence in twice, just so that way they'll be a little more even. And we'll preview that. There we go. So you've got our 1/3 column here, our 2/3 column there, and our main text starting below. So pretty basic, and like I showed you before, you can insert photos in any of these. And just to give you a real-world example of a page that's using that, here your About page, we've got a header at the top, our first 2/3 column, which is this block of text right here, followed by a 1/3 column, which is your mission statement on the side. So the page, when I built that, looks like this. So we've got our header at the top. So you got this header right here. That's where that is. And then we've got the start of our 2/3 column. I've inserted a photo in there with some other text. Who are we? What's our purpose? Raising awareness. And you can see all that here. We've got the photo. Who are we? What's our purpose? Raising awareness. All that text there. And if I scroll down, you'll see there's the end of our 2/3 column. And then here's the start of our 1/3 last column with the mission statement, and the end of our 1/3 last column. And that's how we assembled this page. So pretty straightforward, but it is a little tricky. I would experiment with those, and it's probably good to kind of walk through this video watch the video a few times, walk through it step by step while I'm going through some of those things, just to make sure that you're clear on how they work and that you understand it. Because like I said, it is kind of tricky until you get used to how it works. But the main thing is just make sure that you use even numbers. So if you're doing a 1/3 column, you want to make sure you have either 2 more 1/3s or 1 2/3 column. And then for the last column in your column set, always use the one that's underscore last at the end. And those are identified in your column shortcode browser. So that's pretty much how columns are done. In a subsequent video, I'll show you how to change the size of text and also how to highlight or make grayed out text.